Hello and welcome to the Solutions to Go course about generative AI. We're talking about leveraging AI to build lesson plans, and there are two topics in this workshop. This is topic 1, and we're going to talk about generative AI as a thought partner. My name is Hannah Carnahan. I'm an expert in educational technology working with Canyon Professional Development. I'm a National Board Certified teacher. I earned my master's in curriculum and instruction from Grand Canyon University, and I've spent 17 years with the Paradise Valley Unified School District in Phoenix, Arizona. Most of that time was spent in the math class, but the last couple of years I've been working as a teacher on assignment as a technology integration facilitator. And that means I get to spend a lot of time learning about how technology can be used in the classroom. And I've loved learning and sharing about artificial intelligence for about the last year and a half. This is my 4th year with Canyon PD, and I'm so excited to talk about AI with you today. This quote comes to us from Matt Miller, who's the author of Ditch That Textbook. He says, "For our students' sake, to prepare them for the future, we can't look at the world through today glasses. We must use our tomorrow glasses." We have two main objectives for our topic 1. The first is to gain an understanding of what generative AI is, what it can do, and what some of its limitations are. Then we're going to talk about how we can use it as a thought partner and use it to help us as we are creating lessons. Now, what is generative AI? What do you already know? What do you want to know? In topic 1, you have a KWL chart handout, and you're going to be using this to record your learning throughout the class. A KWL chart gives us a place to write what we already know, what we want to learn, and what we've learned. It's a great tool to use in your classroom. If you haven't used one yet, I'm excited to introduce this tool to you today. I would love for you to take a minute now and fill out the K and W columns for the first section, Getting to Know Generative AI. What do you already know? What do you want to learn? Pause the video and continue when you're done. Now, what is generative AI? I thought it might be a good idea to start with what artificial intelligence is first. So any technology or technique that's aimed at enabling a machine to simulate human intelligence or something that humans can do is artificial intelligence. And we have been doing that for a very long time. We've been doing that for decades. But generative AI is a little bit different. It's a subset or a branch of artificial intelligence that is focused on creating new content or data rather than just analyzing existing information or just following a program. It involves training algorithms on very large data sets and works to understand patterns, styles, and structures, and that enables them to generate new content that's similar but not an exact copy of the data that it was trained on. Now, this is not Google. We're not searching for something. When we use generative AI, it's actually creating something new. Now, what can it do? Well, it can do a lot. Generative AI can be used to generate text, code. It can create realistic images. It can actually create music that has never existed before, and so much more. In education, generative AI can assist us with tasks such as generating lesson content, providing feedback on student work, and creating personalized learning experiences. It can also assist us with things like starting email drafts. Sometimes those things take a lot of our mental power, and generative AI can help us get started. It does have some limitations, and I'm just going to talk about a few of them here today. Generative AI works on probabilities. It doesn't actually know what it's saying. So it doesn't actually understand what you're asking. It doesn't actually understand what it's saying to you. And so that can lead to some unexpected results. They might be nonsensical, they might be inappropriate, and they might just be wrong. As a quick example of that, I was working on a math PD class and I wanted some inspirational math quotes. I noticed some of the quotes that were generated for me didn't look quite right. They looked very generic. And when I Google searched them, I couldn't find any evidence that the person my chatbot said wrote it ever said that quote. And after a little bit more prompting with my chatbot, I finally got it to say that it actually had just made them up. So Sometimes the information that we're getting from the chatbots is not accurate at all. Another problem is that generative AI is trained on data that's produced by humans, and humans are unfortunately inherently biased. So a lot of our data is biased, and the models are trained on biased data, and so the responses that they give us can also represent those biases. Please take a moment and fill out the L column in your KWL chart for what is generative AI. We are going to focus on chatbots in this workshop, but there are other generative AI tools that specialize in creating images, videos, music, and more. The three main chatbots that we'll talk about in this workshop are ChatGPT, which is the one we'll focus on today. ChatGPT is put out by OpenAI. It was released to the public at the end of November in 2022. The people at OpenAI had no idea that this tool was about to go viral. They had no idea how interested the general public was going to be in this, and there were millions of users almost instantly. It was all over the news, all over the headlines. Everyone was buzzing about ChatGPT and all of the cool things that it could do. Now, like I said, they were not planning on it blowing up the way that it did, and all of the other tech giants were working on their own generative AI models and really felt a lot of pressure at that point to start putting their tools out to the public, even though they weren't quite ready yet. But we saw Google's generative AI. It came out first as Bard in March of 2023. It has been rebranded as Gemini. And Microsoft's tool, originally it was incorporated right into their search feature, their Bing. That was in February of 2023, and then they slowly rolled that out and then eventually rebranded to Copilot in November of last year. So these are the three tools we're going to talk about in this workshop, but there are definitely others in America, because there are other large language models like these in other countries. But the other ones that we see here are Claude, which is by Anthropic, and it has a really great conversational style. There's Perplexity, which is a really great model if you are doing research because it cites its sources. It's not as good at the creative tasks, but is very good at citing where it's getting its information from. And then there are many, many more. There's a rabbit hole of chatbots out there to be explored. Now, right now, the chatbots are their own websites, but we're already starting to see them integrated into things like Google Chat. You're starting to get AI-generated responses there. And I just saw earlier this week on Facebook that there's some elements of generative AI incorporated. You can bet that all of the tech giants are going to incorporate generative AI into their programs in the near future. They're all working on this right now. Prompt engineering is one of the most important ideas that we are going to discuss in this class. No matter which tool you're using, by giving the chatbot specific requests and refining them until they're useful, we can get great content, questions, and answers in a very short period of time. If you're good at communicating with people, you're going to be great with a chatbot. It's just like having a conversation. The way that they were designed is to be a conversational style. So you just have to remember to fill them in on all of the details and tell them exactly what it is that you want. So prompt engineering is the term that we use to describe how we are writing our question or our prompt to the chatbot. And I have a few big tips for you. The first one is to give context. If you just met a stranger on the street and you wanted to ask them a detailed question about helping you with your lesson plans, you're going to have to tell them what it is that you teach, where you teach. You're going to have to give them some information to help them get started. And the chatbot is exactly the same as that. You need to let the chatbot know where you're working, who are the students that you're working with, what class are you teaching, what are your objectives, what's the standard that you're trying to get across. As much information as you can give to build the scene, the more background knowledge the chatbot has to work with. You also want to be specific with what it is that you want. Do you want 10 multiple choice questions? Do you want a bulleted list? Do you want a paragraph that is at a 5th grade reading level? Do you want the response to be full of emojis or written in the Shakespearean style? Do you want it to be casual or formal? Do you want it to be short or long? 1 paragraph, 10 paragraphs. The chatbot can do any of those things for us. We just have to let it know what it is that we're looking for. So we want to be specific about the response we want. And if we don't get the response that we want the first time, follow up. You can go back and change your original prompt, of course, or if the chatbot is on the right course, you can just give them some additional details, some additional information, and have it rewrite the response to give you what it is that you need, whatever it was that was missing. So maybe you like the response that you were given, but you need a little bit more, or you wanted to focus on just one of the aspects that it said to you. Whatever it is that's missing from what you wanted, that's what you're going to follow up on. But you can even do things like have the chatbot reread its previous response and improve it. So you could say, how could you improve your previous response? And we'll actually reread what it wrote and try to make some improvements. So it has the ability to do things like that as well. You don't have to go with the first response that's generated. Now, all of that being said, the content that's generated by your chatbot doesn't have to be the final product. And it doesn't even have to be the final product after you follow up a couple times. It can be a starting point for you. Instead of starting from scratch, you can start with something that the generative AI created and then make it your own. Put it in your own tone, your own style, add your own flair. Do things that personalize it for you. The generative AI is just helping you get started. Now, there are some really great new features for ChatGPT. These are pretty recent. You actually have the ability now to customize all of your responses. So let's say that you're going to have a ChatGPT account and you're always going to use it to write lesson plans for a class that you teach. You can actually put in these custom instructions and then not have to retype them every single time. So, for example, for your providing better responses, what do you want ChatGPT to know about you to provide better responses? You can put in your location, the type of class you teach, the grade level of the students, the demographics of your students. Don't put in personally identifiable information ever, please, into the internet in any way. But you could say, I have this many gifted students, this many special ed students, I have some English language learners. You can put in that sort of information and have it stored here so that when you ask the bot to write you some lesson plans, it already knows about the group of students that you're working with. You can even put in your course title, your objectives. Maybe you always like to use Kagan strategies, or your classroom is focused on UDL. There are all sorts of things you could put in here to help it personalize the responses, and then you don't have to include those things every single time you write a prompt. For the section that says, how would you like ChatGPT to respond, you can put in things like the tone you want it to respond in, how casual or formal do you want it to be? Maybe you always want your responses to be in bullet points. Maybe you always want it to be at a specific reading level. Now, if you put those things in here, you could still prompt it to give you something else. Like, let's say I like most of my responses as bulleted lists. I could type that here. But if it gives me a response and I want it as a paragraph, I could just say that at that time. This information here is for information you would want the bot to have overall, but it doesn't have to necessarily apply to every situation. So ChatGPT is the tool that we're focusing on today, and you can sign up for a free account. I am not going to encourage you at all to pay for a paid account. We'll actually talk a little bit more about that in topic 2. You can also use this program without having to sign in. So it's going to be your choice whether you want to create an account. The advantage of that is that it can save your conversations and you can go back to them later, but you can use this program without signing in. When you practice using the chatbot in a moment, I want you to save your conversations and copy and paste them into your KWL chart. That way you're keeping track of all of your learning for this class in one place. And you can copy and paste text, or you can do screenshots, whatever makes the most sense for you. So please take a moment and navigate to ChatGPT. The website is chat.openai.com. You can pause the video and come back once you have that open. Well, there are 3 activities I'm going to have you do with ChatGPT right now. The first one is I want you to have it create a recipe using ingredients that you have in your own kitchen. Maybe there's some veggies sitting in your fridge or on your counter and you're not sure what you're going to do with them. Pick some ingredients that you have around the house and have it create a recipe. I'd also like for you to ask it for advice about fixing something that's broken. Might be an object, might be something in a relationship, whatever is going to be useful for you. Something's broken and you have been trying to get around to getting it fixed. Ask ChatGPT to help you. And third, I'd like for you to write a song about your job or a script for an episode of your favorite TV show about something that happened at work recently. I hope you have fun with these tasks. Please pause the video and come back when you're done. I hope that you enjoyed that activity and it helped you get started with prompting in ChatGPT. Now we're going to talk about how we can use generative AI as our thought partner. This is the main idea of topic 1, and I want you to pause and fill out your KWL chart, the K and W section for thought partner. If I was going to give an elevator pitch to someone about using a chatbot, here's what I would say. Wouldn't it be great if you could bounce ideas off of someone that you couldn't offend? Or if you can ask someone for help at a time when you don't want to bother any of your coworkers? Chatbots are a great thought partner. And here are a few of my favorite points. Number 1, it can't be offended. If you ask a coworker for advice and you don't like what they say, you kind of have to tiptoe around why you're not going to use that idea, or just say, oh, thanks, and maybe hope that they don't follow up with you when you didn't take their advice. But the chatbot is not offendable. If you don't like what it says, you can just erase it and start again. You can reprompt and start again. You can follow up and keep asking questions and keep refining until you get what you want. You can get limitless responses from the chatbot. It's not going to get annoyed with you. It's not going to get tired. It's not going to get grumpy and start giving you sass. The chatbot has no emotions. It doesn't even know what it's saying. So you're not going to offend it, and you can keep getting more and more information from it. And it knows a lot of things. So imagine you have a friend who has read thousands and thousands of books and articles and scoured the internet, and it remembers everything that it's ever read. That's your chatbot. It knows a lot of things. And it's always available, as long as the internet's working, as long as the website's up, as long as you have access to Wi-Fi, you have the ability to connect with your chatbot. And you can do this on a computer, you can do this on a tablet or on your cell phone. The chatbots are really, really accessible. I actually asked ChatGPT why it's a good thought partner. Now, I'm not going to read this whole screen to you. If you want to read what it wrote, please feel free to pause and read the response. If you type in the same prompt I did, you are not going to get the exact same response because this response was generated just for me. So I asked, why are you a great thought partner? And it gave me a big, long list of all the reasons it thinks is a good chat partner, a good thought partner. But too long, didn't read. I can ask it to condense that. So I asked, can you make that answer more concise? And now I've got a response that's just a couple of sentences long. Much more digestible. Actually, I prefer bullet points. So I asked again, but this time give me the response as a bulleted list, and it can do that too. So I can get the response any way that I like, and whatever format makes sense for me at that time. Sometimes the responses are very wordy, and I will have it summarize it because I just don't want to read all of the text that it has generated. So we just talked about ChatGPT as a thought partner. Can't be offended, limitless responses, knows a lot of things, and always available. Please pause the video and finish your KWL chart. Come back to the video when you are finished. I have a couple more prompts for you to try with the chatbot. This time we're going to be thinking more about lesson planning. The first idea is I want you to come up with a new warm-up or exit ticket, something you can actually use in your class. I want you to brainstorm a solution to a problem that your team or PLC is currently having. And I'd like you to describe a lesson that you actually taught to the chatbot, but pick a lesson that didn't go well and ask it to help you improve it for next time. Remember, you should copy and paste your responses to these into your KWL chart just so all of your learning is in one place. We're using ChatGPT right now, but in topic 2, you'll have the option to explore Gemini and Copilot. I'd like for you to pause the video, complete this activity, and come back when you're done. Taking a moment to revisit the quote from the beginning, I'd like for you to reread this sentence from Matt Miller and think about how this applies to what you've learned in this session. Things are changing, and we need to change with them if we want to do any service to our students. I hope that you've gotten some good ideas today. Curious what ideas we have sparked. And there's actually a place at the end of your KWL chart for you to do a reflection. Here are the questions you're going to see there. And I would love for you to spend a couple minutes now to consolidate your learning. This is a great way to put these ideas into your long-term memory and make them more accessible later, especially if you choose to write your responses down. So your biggest takeaways from the class, what are your next steps, and who are you going to share and discuss this topic with? Pause the video and come back when you're done. As we wrap up today, we want to tell you why Canyon PD exists. We want to empower, educate, and inspire you so you take action to fulfill your purpose and serve others. We cannot do this work without you. Generative AI is going to change the world as we know it. I hope what you learned here today will help you begin to change with it and bring those around you along for the ride. Thank you.